Jeremy Poplin with Thunder Breakdown.
Well, here we go. We are now one win away from an NBA championship in Oklahoma City as the Thunder win game number 5 tonight against the Indiana Pacers behind 40 points from J-Dub on 14 of 25 shooting. We'll get to SGA's numbers here in a bit. Your final score is 120 to 109. And this series will now head back to Indiana with a championship on the line for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Again, winners tonight in Game 5. Remember the stat that we had back a couple of nights ago. After Oklahoma City was able to tie this series up at 2 games apiece. And it's funny how the percentages have just up and down like a roller coaster so far here over the last couple of games. When Indiana won and went up in the series, I mean, there was I think the stat was if you win Game 3, you win 80% of the time. You win the NBA Finals 80% of the time, which is why Game 4 in Oklahoma City coming out and tying it up at 2 games apiece, the winner of Game 5 goes on to win this series 75% of the time. So now just 2 more games to go. That's all Oklahoma City has to do tonight after the win, 120 to 109. We are live on YouTube, on the News 9 YouTube channel, and also on X. Feel free if you have any questions to jump in. We'll take care of those for you. We will head to the podium coming up here in just a bit as well. We'll check in with Mark Daigneault and a couple of the Thunder players as soon as we have an opportunity. Until then, man, love to hear what your thoughts are after Oklahoma City gets this win tonight. Impressive, considering the fact, and I want to go back through here and relive a couple of these moments. But I tweeted this just a little bit ago. Remember when this was a 2-point game in the fourth quarter? This was a 2-point game. And from that moment on, it was pure domination from the Oklahoma City Thunder. Absolutely incredible tonight, the way that they were able to close the door on Indiana, because everyone, and I know that a lot of people had to be feeling the exact same way that I did, that was a pucker up moment when it got to 2 points. But as soon as it did, Oklahoma City exploded, I believe, for a 15-4 run at that point in time. And after that, it was pretty much all said and done. And then you had just big bucket after big bucket from Jalen Williams. More big plays from SGA. And before you know it, you looked up and you're like, this 2-point game turned into an absolute runaway for Oklahoma City. Yeah, I found the exact sequence that I wanted to bring up. This is when it was 95-90. Okay, and this is the series where Siakam gets a 3-pointer to cut the lead down to 2. And then it's Jalen Williams answering with that 3, and then Cason Wallace steals the ball and dunks it back on the other end. That, to me, was the absolute difference maker in this game. So I want to play this for you here so we can take a look at it and just see exactly how all of this played out.
Clock at 10. Halliburton in the corner. Nembhard, 3-pointer. Siakam, offensive rebound. Now puts up a 3. It's good. Pascal Siakam from downtown. It's a 2-point game.
Yeah, watch this
He's
sequence.
got 12 in the fourth quarter, 26 for the game. What a comeback from Indiana. Williams gets inside. Hartenstein couldn't tip it, but Wallace grabs it. SGA the drive. Back out the door. Right side, Jalen Williams a 3. It's gone. Taylor Williams knocks it down.
And then Nembhard here with just an awful turnover for Indiana.
Bradley getting some very important minutes right now. Nembhard. Stolen. Wallace with the steal. And throws it down.
Yeah, so that's at the 7:47 mark of when that happened, okay? And from that point forward is when Oklahoma City really put their foot on the gas, and it was never really a game after that moment. But it's that sequence I felt like was probably one of the most important sequence of the game. We got so many different numbers to get to here of things that happened in this one, and I'm talking historic numbers. I'm a little bit miffed at how this was not a 30-point game towards the end of the third quarter and early in the fourth. I mean, if you were to go and look at the possession numbers, like per 100, with where Oklahoma City is at in the advanced statistics, I mean, you would have that looked like with advanced numbers that was a 30-point game. And that's just credit to Indiana for how they continue to play basketball, how they never give up, and just a little bit, if I'm allowed to say it, a little bit of the brilliance that Rick Carlisle has been able to put together in a very short amount of time. You know, this has been a long build for Oklahoma City, and Indiana's kind of had this dropped in their laps. That's the wrong phrase because they've really put in a lot of work. But to see what they've built into, and it causes a lot of nerves, a lot of anxiousness at the end of games. But here we are with a chance to play for an NBA championship coming up in game number 6. All right. Some of the numbers that I was talking about a little bit earlier, just phenomenal. Okay. So Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has his 15th 30-point game of the playoffs. That's the most by a player in a single postseason since Kobe Bryant in 2009. There are only just a handful of players in league history that have 15 games or 30-plus points in a playoff run, and we can count them. There's Michael Jordan, there's Kobe Bryant, there's Akeem Olajuwon, and now there's SGA. That group of individuals doesn't suck at all. Now to what J-Dub did tonight. Players in NBA history with 40-plus points in a finals game within their first 3 seasons. George Mikan in 1949, Jerry West in 63, Rick Barry in 67, Magic in 80, Dwayne Wade in 2006, and Jalen Williams in 2025. There for a brief period of time, I thought that this might be the T.J. McConnell game. Maybe more like T.J. McConnell quarter is what it ended up being, because what did he have, 13 points there in the third quarter? Impressive. But yeah, this was all about J-Dub finishing with 40 tonight. Just absolutely lethal on some of his drives. And there was a point back during the Denver series, I think, when a lot of people were questioning, all right, what's wrong with J-Dub? Is J-Dub okay? There were even some in the national media that were starting to question J-Dub, whether or not that he could be like the second on this team that's clearly led by SGA. I never really went that far at all, but you're allowed to have streaks and moments during series, and J-Dub went through that, knowing that he's fully capable of having moments like this. Dude's still young too, so he's still learning. I never thought that there was going to be this massive regression from him either. As a matter of fact, I think that to take it even further, he's the ideal number 2. He is so much of what you look for in your number 2. Michael Pena, who's one of my favorite writers, said that in his opinion, he's kind of a combination of Paul George, Jaylen Brown, and Klay Thompson. Yeah, I think there's a lot to that. And tonight, I think you saw signs of all of those players combined tonight for J-Dub. All right, again, if you got any questions, love to hear them from you. We've got a couple that have jumped into the chat tonight. We'll start first with It's the Thunder take Game 5. Jalen Williams had the best game of his career, 40 points on 14 of 25 shooting. 1 win away from the first NBA title in franchise history. Shai was great as well with 31 points. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Master Blaster says here that J-Dub was channeling his inner Scottie Pippen. You know what's funny about that is even at 37 points, I thought that this was interesting because I sent this to Toby Roland, who sent me a text. We had a little foreshadowing because on our halftime hangout, I think Aaron Alexander, one of his dogs, was barking in the background. So someone had made the joke like, "Hey, that's a sign. That's a sign." So we'll take it as a sign tonight for sure. But you bring up Scottie Pippen, Master Blaster, and it is this stat. In 208 playoff games, Scottie Pippen never had 37 points in a game at all. So J-Dub passes him tonight for that, and that's so many of the comparisons that we get from some of these players like this. I'm always hesitant to do that because I think we need the entirety of a career before we just start going ahead and putting labels on players. That's also unfair to the guys that played before. It's a completely different game and guys that are playing now. But I see where you're working there. But I did find that a very interesting stat. As again, just one more game to go before an NBA championship. Again, we'll take you to the podium as soon as we get an opportunity to do so here in a few moments, as Mark Daigneault will meet with the media. I'm still marveling at the fact that the Pacers came all the way back, and just in an instant, the defense cranks up, really starts constricting what Indiana is doing. You know, the Pacers didn't help themselves. There was 3 straight possessions, okay, after they got the ball. I take that back. It was 3 times in 6 possessions that they had turnovers after that sequence that I played for you there a moment ago. Siakam hits the 3, it's 2, then you get the J-Dub 3, and then the turnover, Cason Wallace finishes. After that, in the next 6 possessions, at least 3 turnovers. That was their problem in the first half. Oklahoma City was doing a great job of being able to convert those into points in the first half as well. At one point in time, I know Indiana was turning the ball over the first half like 32% of the time. You're not going to win in many instances, especially in an environment like that, which, by the way, kudos to the entire crowd in Oklahoma City tonight, because there were moments, and it feels like that every single game we have the opportunity to say this, that might have been the loudest. And I can only go off of what people are saying that are actually in the arena, that are tweeting or reporting from there. And they're saying that this might be the loudest that we've heard it. And there were a couple of times tonight where they probably broke the meter inside the arena for how loud that it was there. And they have every right to be incredibly happy with their team tonight. Let's see here. A couple of more questions. What's the key to taking tonight's momentum and ending this thing in Indy this week? That'll be an interesting question to kind of ponder after we hear some of the coaches tonight speak on what they felt like worked and what didn't work. To me, and it's been this way the entire series, Andy, is Oklahoma City is better in almost virtually every metric except allowing corner threes, which hurt them a few times tonight. When they don't get completely out of sorts, like they did at times in Game 4, which they still won, where they finished with 6 assists on the night. They almost had that. It's either 6 or 11, but Oklahoma City almost had that many assists tonight in the first quarter. When they get into heavy ISO, when they don't share the basketball, when there's not as much movement, when they're turning the basketball over, those are the things that are the equalizers for them. And they had all that happen, and when they still weren't hitting their threes. Tonight they were hitting their threes. Indy's just a dogged team that won't go away. But to me, it's always been about Oklahoma City just continuing to play their game. They're able to match Indiana in terms of pace. But when they don't get out of control and they just play Thunder basketball, typically they're okay. And they have been okay for the majority of the games so far this season. Let's see. Let's go to who do you think was the most eager to get out of there and get it going? Yeah, there's probably several that fit into that category tonight as well. There was one other number that I had here that I wanted to make sure that I got out here. And I think, let's see. Oh, yeah. So SGA, on top of his points, this is the other thing that was really impressive about tonight. A game-high 7 assists. This was late in the fourth after having none, goose egg, in Game 4. So on those Aaron Wiggins threes, and we'll get to more on Wiggins here in a bit, because 6 of SGA's assists resulted in Thunder threes after Oklahoma City made 3 in all of Game 4. So that was something that you could tell that they had really wanted to make an emphasis of tonight, which was trying to get SGA involved offensively a little bit more in being able to share the basketball when the opportunities is is going. Apologies, I just got a funny text from one of my buddies there. But yes, that many assists from 0 in game number 4. Mark Daigneault will meet with the media here coming up in just 1 second. We'll let you hear some of his thoughts as Oklahoma City again gets a win 120-109, 1 win away from the NBA championship. And now the big question will be, can they go to Indiana and get it done? We'll find out. This team has now crossed something off the list that hasn't been done to Indiana, and that is losing 2 games in a row so far in the playoffs. Oklahoma City has done that. OKC outscored the Pacers 32-9 off turnovers. That is the most points off turnovers the Pacers have allowed all season in 103 games. It's the 5th time this postseason that the Thunder have scored 30-plus points off of turnovers. Again, think about that. 32-9 off turnovers tonight. If they could have even, this series could potentially be over with Indiana stealing game 1 if Oklahoma City could have had even half of that off the turnovers that they created in game 1 tonight. And again, if you're just joining us, history for SGA joining Kobe Bryant, Akeem Olajuwon, and Michael Jordan as the only players in NBA history with 15 or more 30-point games in a single season, with a 120-109 victory. All right, let's see here. Checking the chat and see if anything good is going on here. How about that 32-9? So in any round, teams leading 3-2 as the better seed are 199-23 all time in terms of closing out the series. The numbers statistically say that it's 75% chance, but now teams 3-2 as the better seed, when they're leading 3-2, are 199-23 all time. It was going to be a tough road tonight for Indiana. Right before the game today, I kind of went through and crunched some numbers. Indiana road game 5s in the history of the franchise, not in the ABA, but when they moved to the NBA, they played 19. Coming into tonight, they had only won 3 of the 19. They were 3-16. They had lost those games by an average of 13.5 points. So historically, I know this year's been a little bit different, but historically, Indiana's just been absolutely awful on the road in game 5s. I don't know if I'd put them in the awful category tonight, but not enough to get the job done. Here's the other number 2 that is still ringing true in this series. Indiana has yet to lose a game in the playoffs when they've scored 110 points. Tonight they finished with 109. Now they were below 500 in the playoffs when they do not score 110 points. So that's kind of been the magic number, seemingly, for the Thunder defense the entire series, if they can hold them to under 110 points, which, again, they did here this evening. Jalen Williams and SGA are the first Thunder duo with 30-plus points in the same finals game. 71 combined between with 14 assists. That 40 number also ties Russell Westbrook for the highest scorer in Thunder history in the NBA Finals. He just needed, I think I think Russ finished with 41. He needed 2 more points to have that record all to himself. And if you're the Pacers, you're looking at this and you're asking yourself a big what if, letting that game get away. Tyrese Halliburton became the first player in NBA history to record a finals game with 0 made field goals, 0 steals, 0 blocks, 3 turnovers, 3 fouls in 30 minutes played. That might have the ability to be the single worst NBA Finals performance of all time if you go based off of the metrics. I don't know whether the injury was just in his head tonight or all. The Thunder did play really good defense on him too. There were a couple of moments there in the fourth where I felt like a different version on a different night, Halliburton might have let some of those shots go. He just looked like he had no business. He had no desire to shoot the basketball tonight at all, and it really ended up costing his team. So the Pacers lose Game 5 tonight. They scored 64 points after halftime. They have a 60-point half in each game so far in the finals. But again, Oklahoma City now with the 3-2 lead overall in the series. All right, let's head straight to the podium and hear from the head coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder, Mark Daigneault, as he is meeting with the media as we speak.
Steals in a row. Just walk me through those defensive possessions for your guys and how fitting it was to see this game really secured with your defense.
Yeah, I thought our defense tonight was really good. I thought our conversion off of our defense was hit or miss. We had some really good moments. We had some moments that I wish we could have back. The second chance points were a major problem. They did a great job of crashing to the glass. They beat us in the paint tonight. So it wasn't a perfect game at all, and there's a lot of room for growth. But I thought our improvement from Game 4 to Game 5 was critical, and we're going to need a similar type of approach. We got to take the humility to understand there's still a lot we can get better at if we want to go on the road, and win a game.
Nick in the middle.
Mark, you just mentioned improvement, the offensive process. What did you make of that? The 24 assists, 10 by Shea, and just the sheer way that you scored on that end.
Yeah, I thought we took a step forward there. That we took some steps forwards tonight. We took some steps backwards. That's natural. You're not going to be perfect in everything, but offensively, we definitely took some steps forward in terms of our approach. And defensively, I thought we were pretty good. I thought McConnell really changed the game in the third. Obviously, that was blatant. And so, we got to do a better job there. We got to do a better job on the glass. Late game defensive transition, they kept the pressure on us there. So we have room for growth, but I thought we took some steps forward on the other end.
Vince on the right.
Hey, Coach. Vince Goodwill, Yahoo Sports. Coming into the season, the thought was that either Dub or Chet was going to have to step forward to be the second guy next to Shea to get you guys to this level. Was there anything before the season or during the season where you were sort of affirmed about J-Dub, or was it something that evolved through the playoffs that sort of leads up to tonight in this series?
Yeah, respectfully, we don't look at it like that in terms of, second guy, first guy, third guy, anything like that. We're just trying to help every guy grow and improve and tackle the next thing in front of them. And Dub's a third-year player. Chet's a third-year player. Cason Wallace, a second-year player. I mean, we're just trying to help those guys take steps forward wherever they are at a given moment. That's everybody on the roster. That's Caruso and Kenrich Williams, and that's all the way on down. And when you do that and when the guys commit to that, they improve. And I think tonight, a lot of the things that Dub got in the game tonight are things that we talked about early in the season. He wasn't having games like this in November, December. So his focus on the improvement, I think, led to him being the player he is right now. But again, these guys can be ready to go on the road. We got to be ready to go as well.
Fifth row on the left.
Right here. Mark Logan Murdoch of The Ringer. It seemed like Shea provided a calming influence down the stretch of this game. I think he had a hockey assist to J-Dub with about, 8 minutes left, and then you took him out and he came back in and got another assist to Dort. What did you think of his game, and how did he kind of settle things when you guys were when they were coming back, when Indiana was coming back?
Yeah, I thought, they had a really good offensive second half. And so defensively, there's some things we can learn from. Like I mentioned, McConnell in the third, and then in the fourth, even I think they had 30 points or 33 points. And so we need to improve there. But our offense kind of paced us down the stretch, and he's such a big part of that because he's just in such command with the ball. And Dub was doing that tonight too, which is important against their pressure. So thought those guys, again, played really well in the two-man game, controlled the clock, controlled the game down the stretch, and paced us ahead of them.
Fourth row on the right.
Mark Valencia King, Real Talk Sports. I talked to you last series about how both J-Dub and Shea used the phrase, be where your feet are. As their coach heading back into Indiana, how will you continue to hold tight to that phrase?
Yeah, I mean, we have to, as we have all year, we have to focus on improving. We're playing a game, and we have to get better in the areas that we have to improve. Indiana is going to do that. That's part of a series. That's how you pace ahead of a series, is you keep improving. And we got to go up there and focus on what we focus on, which is the next game, the next possession, and where we are. And the guys have done an amazing job of that. But these games are a challenge. We want to win these games. It can pull you into the future, it can pull you into the past. We got to stay present and compete together in every possession of the game.
Tim McMahon, ESPN. Mark, you mentioned, I think, the practice after game one that typically for third-year guys, delivering in the finals isn't on the curriculum.
Yep.
Why do you think Dub has been able to come through the way he has, especially over these last few games in this series?
I mean, these guys are really good players, obviously. But I go back to the improvement. There's times earlier in the season where, he had some ugly plays and ugly games, trying to establish the type of force that you saw tonight. And I complimented him back then, but he's trying to make an all-star team. He's a all-NBA player this season. He's got an individual career that, he's ambitious, but the way that you accomplish your goals and become the player you're going to be is by improving, and I credit him because in the face of all those things, he just focused on improving. And now in the face of going up to Indiana, up 3-2, we have to focus on improving. That's got to be our mindset, and we have to discipline ourselves to do that.
Third row on the left.
Daniel Bell, BSO. Mark, back to Joe's question about the crowd. It seems like when there are lulls in the game, the crowd starts making noises. I don't know if it's a correlation or if you feel like it's a correlation, but it seems like that kind of pushes you guys to the next level. Do you feel that, or do you feel like the players feel that?
I mean, you can ask them, but again, I think the crowd puts the wind at our back. I always marvel at how enthusiastic and positive they remain in the ebbs and flows of a game or of a season. They're always trying to put the wind at our back. They're always trying to lift the team up. And I just think that's a great spirit that's on display in all these games. But they were amazing tonight, obviously.
Second row on your right.
Myron Patton, OKC Sports. Jalen, is this the kind of game you envision for him? I mean, not that he's going to get 40, but I know he's worked on trying to get to the free throw line. He had 12 free throws tonight, along with the field goals. And also, could you comment, you got the turnovers tonight, like in game one, but you also got the points to go with it, 32, unlike in game one.
Yeah, I thought our conversion tonight was better. I thought there were also some plays where we were a little hasty in transition, and we can clean that up. We have to attack with intelligence after our stops, and we can improve that a little bit. But yeah, Jalen, again, I don't know if this is what I envisioned, but we're just trying to help guys grow, from wherever they are at a given point in time, and he's committed to that process, and he's not the only one. I mean, he had the loudest game, but we've got a culture of that. Our guys do an amazing job of just staying present in their careers, staying present in the season, just attacking what's right in front of them.
Fourth row on the right.
Dean Blevins, News 9. Coach, I was wondering on potential challenges, there seemed to be a number of calls that could have been that you might have thought about challenging. What was your thinking on it? Because it wasn't just one or two. It seemed like there were a number of them.
And you're always just focused on trying to get it right. You don't want to burn one on a play that could be marginal or could be interpreted in a certain way, and try to keep it in your pocket unless it's one that you can really go get.
Fred, last question in the back right.
Mark, You guys, especially like Aaron Wiggins, seem to put a real emphasis on getting up shots, getting up threes in transition. Was that something that you felt like you guys had to emphasize was a better way to get threes in transition? And what did you think of the looks you guys were able to get from beyond the arc tonight?
Yeah, I mean, we shot 17 threes in game 4, and that's not really a recipe it's a byproduct of offense that's not where it needs to be. And so I thought we made some improvements tonight. I thought Wiggs and Case and Wallace specifically, especially in the first half, those guys gave us a major lift, came in aggressive. Wiggs only played 8 minutes in game 4. I didn't think Kaysen played great in game 4. And they both came ready to go tonight and gave us a massive lift. And we're going to need that type of aggressiveness and confidence from everybody. And they gave it to us tonight.
Oh, we were having a little bit of audio problems there, so I apologize. As I was saying just a few moments ago, I'm not quite sure that we'll get a player, and I apologize for the audio problems as well. That was a very strange mishap. We will see if there's a Thunder player that's going to be at the podium here in the next couple of moments. If there's not, then we'll go ahead and wrap this up. A couple of the key stats that I wanted to make sure that we brought to you before we ended up wrapping up here is that Jalen Williams and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scored or assisted on 103 of Oklahoma City's 120 points. That is 86% of their offense tonight. On top of the 40 and 31 that they were having on the scoring, but they assisted on 103 of Oklahoma City's 120 points on the night. Absolutely ridiculous. And finally, before we wrap up, first back-to-back loss for Indiana in 99 days. March 10th was the last one, and they're down in the playoff series for the first time. And Oklahoma City now has not lost back-to-back games since early April. So one streak goes completely out the window, and Oklahoma City still on theirs. And game number 6 coming up from Indiana on Thursday night with a chance to win an NBA championship. That'll do it for us. Again, if you want to watch the rest of the Thunder postgame show, you can go and check that out online right now at News 9's YouTube channel, where they are streaming the Oklahoma City Thunder version. We just heard from Mark Daigneault, and I'm sure that you will hear from a Thunder player coming up here in just a few moments. That'll do it for us. I want to appreciate and say thank you to everyone who took time to join us here this evening. We'll see you again coming up on Thursday night with another halftime hangout and then a postgame show where we could be talking about a world champion Oklahoma City Thunder. Good night from all of us here at News 9 and Thunder Up.
Thank you for watching this Oklahoma's Own digital studio stream. Stay with News 9, online and on television anytime for the latest news, weather, and sports.